Hello, Wolverine family. I'm Kimberly Traylor, and I'm the graduation coach and 504 coordinator here at West Cabarrus High School. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about 504s. So first off, 504s are formal and legally binding plans developed to give students with disabilities the support they need. It's from a civil rights law, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, and it prohibits discrimination against individuals with disabilities and applies to all agencies that receive federal funds, including public schools. 504s require public schools to provide a disabled student with educational services that are designed to meet the individual needs of the disabled student to the same extent as the needs of non-disabled peers. 504s are not the same as an IEP. They're both covered by different laws and work in different ways. There are some similarities, some overlaps, but they are not the same. And you could run into an instance where a student doesn't qualify for services under an IEP, but they do for a 504. Students qualify for coverage under 504 if they have a physical or mental impairment which substantially limits one or more major life activities, if they have a record of such an impairment, or if they're regarded as having such an impairment. There's not an exhaustive list of qualifying disabilities. They cover any condition, physical or mental, that limits daily life in a major way. Some examples or some reasons why you might have a student with a 504. You have ADHD, that's a pretty common one. You might have a student who is blind or deaf, so they require some type of modification to their learning environment. For instance, I had a teacher friend who had a blind or partially blind student who they had special tape on the door frames of their classroom so that student would go into the correct classroom. We also have other examples like diabetes or dyslexia. So discrimination is defined by 504s, would include excluding a disabled student from activities in which non-disabled students participate, providing a student with a disability with services that are different from the services non-disabled students receive, unless the services are necessary because of the student's disability, or subjecting a student with a disability to limitations that are not imposed on non-disabled students. The school system must work to provide necessary accommodations to the general education program to provide a student with a disability with participation in the least restrictive environment. A student, parent, or guardian or school staff member can refer a student who is suspected of having a disability under Section 504. 504 plans are written by a team consisting of the student's parents or guardians. In high school, we like to include the students in those meetings so that they're able to advocate for themselves and give feedback. The 504 coordinator, which is me, at least one of the student's classroom teachers, a school administrator, and other individuals who are knowledgeable about the student, the evaluation data, and or the placement options. So that could include, but it's not limited to, like the school psychologist, a school nurse, a social worker, sometimes like therapists that come in to work with students like OT or speech. But the team may determine that a written education plan is appropriate for the disabled student. So accommodations you're likely to see on those written education plans, on those 504 plans, and this is prior to remote learning. So I know some of this 504s are still going to apply to you in remote learning. They just might look a little different. So there could be a sign language interpreter for students who are deaf, computer text-to-speech software for students with visual impairments, extended time for students with fine motor limitations, visual impairments, or learning disabilities, large print books and worksheets for students with visual impairments, changes to assignments or homework, changes to instructional delivery, maybe like a lunch bunch or similar social skills workshops, behavioral modifications, or development of a behavioral support plan. And I will say there's no exhaustive set list of accommodations. It's what the team comes up with that they're able to provide. Um, I would anticipate changes to 504s that reflect remote learning. So there might be different accommodations coming out on 504s to reflect the fact that we're learning virtually now. So requirements for you as a regular education teacher. A student's regular education teacher is required to implement the written education plan that's written by that 504 team. A teacher cannot unilaterally decide that he or she will not provide a student with the accommodations set forth in the 504 plan. If you feel that you're going to have difficulty following through with the 504 plan, come talk to me and we will come up with some type of solution. If you are absent from school, you should indicate on the lesson plans for the substitute teacher what accommodations need to be made for any students who receive accommodations under a 504 written education plan. When I was in the classroom, a lot of my 504s were about extended time or separate room testing. So if you're going to have a substitute, I know most of the time people don't allow substitutes to give tests, so there wouldn't be a need there for you to say these 3 kids get extended time on their test in your subplans. But I know that I had a student one semester who did have, he was hearing impaired, so he had a sign language interpreter in class with him, and I would leave a note in my subplan saying that, Johnny's going to have an interpreter. This is where she sits. This is what she does. Just giving them a heads up that they know to expect it, or they're able to provide whatever that accommodation might be on that 504 plan for your student. So I'm currently still compiling the 504s from our 8 feeder schools. I will email the 504s to teachers, and I'm going to tag the students in PowerSchool. So when you see your class list, when you go to take attendance, or maybe you're looking at the demographics when you click on the book bag in PowerSchool, it should show an icon beside their name with 504 to show that that student has a written education plan. If you ever find that you have a student with that tag, but you have not been given their 504 PDF by me, and hopefully that doesn't happen, but in case it does, reach out to me. I might have tagged the wrong student, hopefully not, or I might just have missed you and not included you on the email for that student's 504. Teachers will have to digitally sign off that they receive the 504s, that they understand their responsibilities with 504s, and have been trained on 504s, and this is that training. There are a few 504 renewals in September. If this is one of your students, you may be contacted to fill out a form about your student's performance in class. You may also be contacted to sit in on the 504 meetings via Microsoft Teams. With remote learning, it's important to know 504s are still relevant and they still have to be followed. If you have any questions, please contact me. Here you see my email address. You can shoot me an email, and then you also have my phone number there. That's to my cell phone. You can text me or call me. I'm happy to respond to any questions that you may have. If I don't have an answer, I'll find an answer for you. I'll find someone who can give you the answer. Later in the week, I will have a Q&A session for 504s. So be looking for that. And then I'll also be sending out a Google form just to acknowledge again that you have received the 504s, you understand your responsibilities with them, you've been trained on them. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a great day, and I look forward to working with you guys. Go Wolverines!